We
And we're live. It's 4:20 too, but whatever. It's 4:20.
You can't expect stoners to always be on time. That's a lot. We're here. That's all that matters. We're live and we're here. We're excited to do episode 4 of Elevated Intel. And surprisingly, just like last week, circling back to some of the original topics we covered on episode 1 and 2 to give you the most up to date information that we can, the most accurate and I guess salacious almost.
Oh,
I
I
mean,
love
not
station.
every week is going to be a headliner, a banger, you know, like not every week is going to have a lot of big news. So we have to do what we can, huh? You're home, aren't you? Look
I'm
at you.
I'm so glad to be home. And actually I could not be more happy to be home. Though I'm starting a new campaign. Ready?
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm totally ready. Let's
It's
do this.
it's called Mama.
Okay.
Make
MA
America Maine again. You might have come up with it last week.
is
The
Maine's abbreviation MA. No,
yes.
that's Massachusetts.
So MN, I don't care. It's Maine
Okay.
again. Make America Maine again. Right?
Okay. That's right. Well, I mean, it
I,
could
I
be Make America Maine and put the EME for Maine as the abbreviation. I mean, let's spitball some ideas. I love
I'll
this.
play with you.
Maine was the top winner of your trip, huh?
It really was. It absolutely was. I would love to have been able to stay, wow, indefinitely.
Become a permanent maniac?
Wow, it's so cold. The winters are not my thing, but with global warming, but then
Oh,
there's
we can
tide
only hope to,
rising, and
it'll
I don't
be
know.
Florida.
No, what I really want to do is I want to make America Maine again.
Okay.
Uh, I really am serious about that. Maine still has, I can go to JAR, which is one of the organization's growers there,
Mhm.
and they have their own little dispensary, and I can buy from them there. Or
Their
I
name
can
is
go
Jar,
JAR, J A
like
R,
JAR.
yes, company,
Okay.
CO, yeah,
I mean, I love it. I love how simple and
simple,
back to basics it is. We're
JAR,
called Jar. Yeah, I like
JAR,
it.
yeah. Look for JAR products in a big jar, tubs and tubs of it, right?
Yeah, we don't have a lot of
Uh,
gimmicks. It's just jar. Cannabis in jar. I love it.
Good pot doesn't need a lot of gimmicks,
It really
Cynthia.
doesn't. I feel like the
Doesn't.
more colors on the packaging, the worse it's going to be. And that's from actual experience in other markets. Like if you make good pot and you grow really good weed, then you don't need to spend all that extra money because people are just going to keep coming back.
Right, right. Over and over and over again. And in Maine, I can go to JAR and I
Jar.
can buy JAR from the JAR dispensary, or I can go to another one like Meristem, they're in
Mhm.
the Bar Harbor area, and I can
Okay.
buy JAR products, right?
Can
Because
we
they
get
can distribute to us.
shirts from Jar that say Jar on them that we can wear on the show, maybe? If you could reach out to your
Oh,
Jar
I
homies, get some Jar
I'm
swag.
Well, everybody has a lot of interest in what's happening in Florida. I sat down, anybody that's been watching knows that I actually went to Maine with the idea of going to recreate a moment with Maine blueberry weed.
Yes.
So it was the blueberry. Now I came to find out that there were other things that I liked, like the Super Boof from Jar.
Yeah.
But I went in to buy the blueberry that I wanted. And I was very clear with the young man. I said, if it were legal, I would be buying some of this as a gift for my friend here and my gift from, but it's not. I love this. And he's giving me all my bags of, weed. And,
You need help out to your car, ma'am? Yeah. Actually, that'd be great. That'd be great. Yeah.
I had Dave and Lynn with me. So I did have help getting out to the car, but we'd been sitting there chatting. And this guy comes out and I start talking to him. And his name was Mike. And he is one of the owners of Wilshire Madison. And he's the grower
Okay.
and the owner. And they have this little kind of factory, converted factory warehouse place. And that's where he's growing fabulous weed. And
Okay.
we had a great time chatting. And I said, as many times as I've said your name, you guys should be a sponsor. But
Really?
uh, he said, well, what happens in Florida is really important to the rest of us too, because Florida created the multi-state operators, companies that were big enough and that had enough money behind them that they could very rapidly, move into markets. And
I don't want to be
so
responsible for that. I
I
don't want that to be it's not necessarily a badge of honor. It is something that like it's almost awe-inspiring that we created some of the most like successful business in the history of the United States of America, not just cannabis. I'm saying like we made a lot of people rich in Florida very quickly and then nationally gave them name recognition and brand awareness. Whether or not that's to our detriment is yet to be seen. But
I want to
I
make
love Florida.
America
I'm
Maine
still Florida.
again.
Make Florida America, Maine, whatever. I'm on board with every campaign you do because usually they're pretty successful. Now we'll spitball, but like if they want to give us some jar shirts, I would rock that with
I will see what I can do
happiness
about
and
a jar.
enthusiasm. Okay, all right. But I just have a
Just jar,
feeling that they're
jar
very
code.
like Times New Roman just says jar across. And just
People
simple,
who people who know,
if you
right?
know, yeah.
If you
So
know, you
let's
know.
talk
And
about our wonderful nightmare that is the Florida Sunshine State, which is not Maine yet.
not Maine. Okay,
Yeah.
if you insist. I am back to the Sunshine
I got to
State.
bring you back to the sunny place for shady people. That's what we should have as our slogan.
I could live Florida, a sunny place for shady
I'm always
people.
thinking of
I'm
shirt
writing
ideas.
it down.
Do that and
I'm
then
writing
copyright
that one down.
Cynthia Brewer. So there's only a couple topics that we covered on episode 2 that we're going to update everybody on for episode 4 today. One in which is the Smart and Safe ballot initiative for legal adult use 21 and over for the 2026 ballot. In hopes to make it there, they are currently in Supreme Court review, acquiring now 613 206 signatures out of their 880,000, little over 880,000 that are required. And recently on Tuesday, there was a judge named Mark Walker. I want to make sure I got that right because I wrote, yeah, Mark Walker, who decided to temporarily put a hold or a block per se on the HB 1205 language that has really been a hurdle for citizen ran ballot initiatives specifically, that was kind of pushed by DeSantis and then GOP legislators out in Tallahassee, making it very difficult for people to change the law even if we vote for people in office that aren't doing it for us. So this is the one thing we have left to do anything. And so part of that language in HB 1205 said that there needed to be all these additional things done for citizens to change the Constitution. One of which was you cannot hire people from outside non-residents to collect signatures. That was the one section that he thought would be a violation of people's First Amendment rights. And he decided to put a temporary block on that. Now, the one person or the one group specifically that really benefited from that is Smart and Safe Florida, because if they were to impose the fines per person that was a non-resident that they employed, as of March, they would have over $25 million worth of fines to pay.
Oh,
So
wow.
this is huge for them as far as not paying more fines. And it is a violation of the First Amendment rights. And the judge seemed to be very sympathetic that the additional hurdles in place make it difficult for us to have a say in how we are governed. And he was right. Now, he did not change the 90-day moratorium on signature validations, which is and verifications, which wasn't really a smart and safe like platform. That was one of the other ballot initiative groups. I think it was for Medicaid or for health worker or something. And then the other one was registration requirements for volunteer petition circulators. Those are still in place. So it's a small win. Smart and Safe, like I said, is 613,000 deep in the 880,000 requirement of signatures. And it looks like they are not stopping that momentum. This is just a win from Judge Walker.
You may not know this, Cynthia, but I'm going to ask anyhow, and maybe we can circle back around on this later if we can't get it today. Uh, at one point, Smart and Safe mailed all of us ballots,
Mm-hmm.
and mine came with my name and contact information, and then there was a second ballot in the envelope that I was supposed to take to my little friend that's next door that didn't get it, right?
Right.
So, um, at one point there was a discussion about the court or the supervisor of election saying those weren't valid. Did you ever see how that are those valid? Can we still send those in?
So what it wasn't that they weren't valid, it was they were being they were being fined for supply. I think they were being fined for supplying us with the additional ballot. They were then asked to submit the names and addresses of everyone who received a ballot via mail, because they would have received one like you got with your name and I got with my name, and then a plus one, almost like a plus one invitation to
That's how I
vote
took it.
twice, is what they were like alluding, that this is going to encourage people to try to manipulate the system. No, it wasn't. But it was kind of odd to get both without any further instruction. Also, they wanted the list of everyone who received it. I haven't been reached by anyone at the government related about my experience. I don't know if that was a scare tactic. I also know that we talked about it on one of our Florida Cannabis Action Network like shows that we did after legislative session, as far as like what's the worst that could happen kind of thing, like with providing the extra ballot, and how did they get my info. Don't share my info. I don't want my info shared with anyone else. And so if you got it through the patient registry, if you got it through the means of the OMMUR, that's fine. But now that you're in trouble and you have to give it to this other agency, like it's just passing around our info on I'm not a big fan of that part. So just keep me off. But I also just don't know how they got my info.
And I was checking in. I've got some doctor's appointments stacked up, not medical marijuana, but doctor's appointments. So they want me to be there 15 minutes early, and they want me to digitally go through all this paperwork. Now I'm really sensitive to the paperwork. We did a white paper last year as Florida Cannabis Action Network on the paperwork that you have to sign. You sign your life and your rights away when you get your medical marijuana card. And I'm reading this paperwork and they want me to sign, they want me to sign. And some of the stuff that they want me to sign is, are you having mental health issues? Are you having financial difficulties? Are you having, obviously those kinds of things will affect my health. Do you have food insecurity? And
This is
I'm
in the
like,
survey, the patient survey.
that I'm supposed to fill out before I
Yeah.
see my doctor. And then they get to, is there guns in the home? And and I'm like, I'm not filling any more of this out.
That's
Walk
way
away.
further than I've ever seen in a doctor's
I
office.
had never seen it either. But, talking about data, and I don't want my data shared about whether or not I have a gun in my home.
Well, did you read the terms and conditions of that document at the end, or did you just answer the questions and be done with it? Because it sounds like if it sounds like data collection, as far as gun owners are more likely to get their teeth cleaned with this dentist, like if it's not relevant to the activity that you're about to do, don't answer the damn question, because that they're data mining.
That's exactly, and I walked away from it. And there was one that I didn't sign, and that's when I kind of got suspicious, and I just walked away from the permissions, these privacy, and it was all these things that they could share uh, with a third party,
No, no.
mental health issues, and so I say that, I have food insecurity or I'm stressed out this week. And suddenly they're going to share that with a third party and somebody's going to come and collect that. So I'd be interested to
No.
hear if anybody else is getting that. I did pay attention. One of the things that has come up recently with Florida Can is the fact that the only thing that a cannabis user gets on their medical records is cannabis dependency.
What?
So yeah, if you tell your regular general practitioner that you use cannabis medicine,
Hmm.
they only have so many boxes that they can check, and medical marijuana isn't one of them.
Is
Cannabis
this a
medicine,
uniform form across
this
all positions?
because of insurance coding, it gets to be pretty uniform. And cannabis dependency is the way that they market. Well, dependence, that's bad. I've been around long enough. So stay tuned. I was reading the privacy
You know
statement.
some
I know,
doctors.
and I'm going to challenge that on my medical record. I'm going
I
to
want to
start that
see
process this week.
because I know my doctor very well, and I want to see if he's checked that box. And I also want to see this form that they have to fill out and see if there's any other box that they could check and just, or if it's even necessary at that point. Like if it's not, I mean, it just sounds like it's going to be setting yourself up for a bad day if that box is checked and you have insurance issues with some other ailment, pre-existing conditions, nonsense with insurance coverage. I don't know. It sounds bad.
But if you don't tell, so prior to 2014, most of our viewers won't remember this, but some of you will.
Way back
Florida,
when.
way back when, Florida had medical necessity as a defense for cannabis use.
Hmm.
So in 1995, the safest place for a marijuana user who was a qualified patient to be in the United States was Florida. We had the most protection for any patient using marijuana of any state in the union. Now in 96, California passed Proposition 215 and all those things changed, right? But in 95, you had medical necessity as a defense here in Florida. And we would tell people if you get arrested with cannabis and you haven't talked to your primary physician about your cannabis use, we're going to have a hard time defending you as medicine. So
Well,
on the
because
one,
that part I kind of get though, because back then, if you were allowed this option as medical necessity, but yet you never vocalized that to your general practitioner in any capacity or any doctor in that setting, if you never told anybody, then it wasn't really medical necessity. It was more like personal necessity.
it might have been medical necessity and you were just too afraid because of your insurance company or the VA was
But
your
you're in
medical
Florida.
provider.
You're in a safe space at the time, the safest of states to be in.
So, I bring this up because I think we're starting to see this again. I
Yeah.
posted something on, maybe it was LinkedIn this week. Um, and forgive me, those of you who are good with social media, I'm not, but I did post this week about a New Hampshire man. He lived in New Hampshire for 40 years. He was a Canadian, with a, permanent residence in the United States. He had a marijuana conviction, misdemeanor, with a misdemeanor driving offense at the same time from the 80s, and they have denied him reentry into
To
the United
Canada?
States. No, he went
Oh,
to Canada and they won't let him back into the United States. He is a permanent resident,
oh.
Canadian citizen, permanent
New
resident,
Hampshire went back to Canada, can't come back home to New Hampshire because he had a
a marijuana
misdemeanor in the 80s.
misdemeanor and a misdemeanor driving offense in the 80s. So, we talk about what it was like back then, but there was a marijuana farm raided this week
Yeah.
over labor. So,
Yeah. It's a hot mess. And I'm
we're
going to be
here.
honest
It's a
with
hot
you.
mess.
We don't want to broadcast or speak to stuff that we don't know 100%. And doing research on this is incredibly frustrating because you can start to read and know that the tone behind that author is
Right.
not canna friendly. So trying to find an unbiased perspective of what went down is very difficult. Seems like all of the one side is talking about some very, very bad situations, very dangerous situations, and almost fear mongering. So what we're talking about specifically were the ICE raids on the California grow. This was a licensed facility with the California marijuana program. Okay, this company employed people. They did inspections with the state. They submitted employees to keep their license active. I've had a license in the California market for the laboratory, and it's a pretty strict state, and they are very diligent about checks and balances. And, it was the lab, but they do inspections, and they have a program there that's well oiled because they had to go from the illicit to the legal. And so if this company is maintaining their licensure actively, then they've had to go through different steps. The fact that ICE has raided this facility, causing there to be, a lot of protests, and now more recent announcements of child labor, sex trafficking, child exploitation. So what I could find from as many sources as I looked for, where there were 10 unaccompanied minors that were found on the premises during the raid. Now, they were not
14 and up. 14
well,
and
yeah,
up.
the youngest was 14.
Okay.
Minors, I would assume all under the age of 18, where you're an adult at 18. So 18 to 14, there were 10. Now, these children, young adults, whatever you want to say, were not found working, trimming product. They were just on the grounds. And so if you read some articles, they're going to say we're going to investigate for exploiting child labor. These were illegal children that were here illegally. They were unaccompanied minors, which I don't really understand. Does that mean they were unaccompanied? Their parents were nowhere to be found, or were they part of the people that were being arrested and now they're unaccompanied? There's a lot of misinformation, just like backwards information. So 14 to 18 being present at a grow, maybe you have personal beliefs about that, but there's nothing wrong with that. They're not, they weren't being utilized as labor. They were caught like trimming or packaging or watering plants. They were just on the ground. I mean, I would get it if they had like photos of these kids with like Fiskars and they're trimming bud, because that would be probably not the best practice. But that company being licensed with the program wouldn't risk their license, in my opinion, to employ a couple of kids, 10 kids. And the worst part I'm going to say this because we talked about it before, but the prize photo. When anybody in law enforcement seizes product, they have two very difficult things that they must do. That is one, math, which is FDLE seizes $60 million worth of marijuana. And then you find out how much weight and you're like, wow, they're really overpaying for their weed if they think it's $60 million worth. So the math part is always really frustrating to hear. And then the prize photo, which is the agents that discovered the illegal products in front or behind all of their prize, guns, drugs, other, pornography, whatever they could find that was illegal or illicit.
Stacks of money. I like the stacks of money and bags of weed.
Exactly.
Classic.
So they did a prize photo for these minors, and it's these 4 or 5 ICE agents with masks over their face and guns and all of their getup, and then 10 young adults, 14 to 18, without anything covering their face except for they blurred their face. But they made them just sit there in 2 rows for this photo. The guys behind them are looking like they just caught a prize. And that's very difficult. So for me I can't get on board with that. You do it with weed and guns and cocaine, and that's fine. If people do it with bucks when they hunt deer, that's fine. Okay. But this is not game. This is not game. These are kids, and you're making it look like you seized. It says they were rescued, Jodi. These kids were rescued. From what? And where are they going now that they're rescued?
Right. Well, some very important people that I have worked with for a very long time, Steph Shear being one of them, who founded Americans for Safe Access. And this farm that was raided has been pivotal in the Americans for Safe Access space. So I'm going to believe that, you can write things he's mentioned with any spin that you want. And I'm going to tend to believe my friends with Americans for Safe Access that this was, kind of a intimidation tactic to remind people that marijuana is still not legal.
And
So,
it was low hanging fruit, in my opinion, with ICE. So if we
well,
know that they are going to take this illegal people that are here illegally, helping the agricultural side of our economy, okay, then they better target other parts of agriculture. I don't want them to target anybody, but I'm saying they're going to go after agricultural commodities in the US, and they went after cannabis first. And they
well,
compared this as if
cannabis is
it
not
was,
legal.
they say it's a product, not produce. And they went after a cannabis company. And yes, they, I guess, got caught with some people that were there that were not, that were illegal, and these minors were rescued and all that. But like, what else are they doing? Because it feels like they're just going to keep going after cannabis.
I want to know more about these minors. If you've got some 14 and 18-year-olds and somebody's gotten them off of the street and they're giving them a space to stay and work the rest of the farm, did you
What if
just
they
rescue
weren't
them or did
working?
I rescue them first?
Okay, how about this? People that have kids ages 14 to 18, would you allow them to get a job? One, would you care if it's in cannabis? Two, and if not, would you be okay if they were just visiting a farm or coming with you to work while you worked on a farm and your employer said it was okay that it was bring your kid to work day? I'm saying some of the people that work there may not have any other options for daycare, and so what if he's just a really good boss that's like, it's okay, bring your kid to work. We
Bring your
wouldn't
kid
let
to work.
that child participate in cannabis. They can go and like stay busy and play in the sun. You can work, and then you know where your kid's at all day while you're working on the farm. There's no proof that those kids were being exploited. They were just present during the raid, and that's
You know,
unfortunate.
I really want to point out, and the other organization that's been on this is Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. What is up with uh agents in face masks? I just find that so public execution does
Mm-hmm.
nothing for the person that they execute, and it does nothing for the family of the person who, that was wronged. What public education or execution does is it sends a clear message to the population.
Right. Then why does the executioner always wear a mask?
And why in the world is, if these ICE agents are so proud of what they're doing, why
Mm-hmm.
are they being encouraged to wear a mask?
I think I understand law enforcement wearing um, something to protect their identity if they do undercover work, because there's a lot of, I mean, that's a very valuable piece of expertise to have. And once you go undercover, if there was some sort of operation, they don't want to give away their identity, because then they can't really do any other operations, like they're exposed. So keeping that anonymity is incredibly important, but I'm not sure how many ICE agents were also doing undercover work. It kind of looked more like not too proud of the day's activities. Now I know that there's more to the story. Jodi does too. Florida Campus Action Network does not condone anybody exploiting children, trafficking
Absolutely.
humans, or
Absolutely.
making kids trim weed against their will for, whatever.
Racism, opposed to racism,
None of that
opposed
is
to
okay. None of it's
that's
okay. But
not
what
okay.
also isn't okay is scaring people and putting information out there as if these kids were being chained to a wall and forced to trim bud, and they call them youngsters, children's young babies are innocent. And I'm like, well, what are you guys going to do? There's no amnesty that they're providing anybody from that raid. And so if you say they're unaccompanied minors that are now rescued, where are you going to put them? What wonderful, wonderful farm do they get to go live on now and live out their days as American citizens? Because that's not going to happen. And
Right.
I'm very scared to find out what will happen, because they were just present during activities. So I just,
Well,
to clear the air, we do not condone anything. If it does turn out that these kids were exploited, we will definitely own up to that and we'll put the owners on blast. But for now, we need more info.
right. And we absolutely need to be taking care and protecting ourselves and paying attention. Really, you made a joke about Florida is a sunny place for shady people, but really, there's a lot of shady. There's a lot of shading, and love is what keeps it together. So we need to love our weed and have weed that loves us, so that we can share the love and hold the world together. That is my final thought on on just about everything. I did just come back from vacation.
I
Um,
know.
did you see 85,000 products have
I mean,
now been
Operation
removed?
Safe Summer is only relative and important if you are in a certain area because it could mean a big difference in a different area. So let me give you an example. Operation Safe Summer could mean sex predators in Manatee County. It could mean sting operations for child CP. We can't say it if we go on YouTube, so we'll say CP in another state in New Hampshire, in Florida, but only parts of Florida, not Miami-Dade or Manatee, because those are other things. Operation Safe Summer is underway, and Wilton Simpson should wear a cape because he has seized 85,000 products in only 3 weeks. Like 40,000 the first, 38 the next, and then like a minuscule amount for the week of July 4th because it was a holiday. So he's not going to make the workers work a full week. So I get the numbers, but across 40 counties in the state of Florida, 85,000 products have been seized. And if you remember episode 2, how many products were seized? 11,000?
11,000 is what they were first reporting in week
Somebody's
one.
trying to make employee of the month at the Department of
So,
Ag.
that's right. That's right. And, this is a lot of inventory off of people's shelves. And while they say these people have had plenty of notice, it's pretty much up to the discretion of the person who's looking at it, whether or
What if
not
he
it's
does a
attractive to
prize
children.
photo? Wilton Simpson,
Oh, with
85,000
his
products in front of him.
85,000
Mask
products.
on, mask on. Baller.
Well, I think for his run for governor, he wants the mask off. Right.
Yeah.
I do.
I'm not afraid of anyone. Come after me.
Well,
Catch me outside.
this sets us up nicely for legislative session when they
Ugh.
want to talk about regulating it. Really, we've taken 85,000 products off the shelf. How much more do you need to regulate?
Well, I want to know if there's anybody that listens to the show or watches the show or knows Florida Cannabis Action Network, and you operate a facility that had a product seized. You can be anonymous if you want and just send us your experience. Tell us what they seized. Tell us if you were aware of it. You don't have to tell us anything. I'm curious to find out how it all went down for these retail shop owners. Was it aggressive? Were they coming in there like ICE agents looking for the minors? Or was it polite and just like a health inspection at a restaurant where it's like you just avoid them like the plague until they're done, and then you sign the thing? Or
Right.
was it something where they did like an undercover, a sting? Was it Wilton Simpson himself in Cape? Like what happened? Because if you just read the numbers, 40 counties have been treated with the Simpson. Okay. 85 products have been seized by the Simpson. So how many business owners have been affected
Simpson.
by the Simpson? I want to know.
Well, and I think that is, I want to know too. I did get a report that Tallulah in Tallahassee had products taken off the shelf. We did get a comment from Colette Florido, Vice President of Florida Cannabis Action Network, where we were
PR
talking
World
about
owner.
CR World owner and founder, a good custom cannabis CBD product that is available online. They can ship to you. She reminds us that in Florida, we would not have had to have worried about this raid because 14-year-olds can now work, right?
That is
Maybe
a
not in a
very good point,
dispensary, but
Colette. And I love her for
so,
bringing us full circle to the legislative session conversations that we had last year about, you know, uh, how old can someone be? And they were very much aggressive. GOP legislators were aggressive in explaining how their first job at blank age, underage, was how they molded themselves into this very amazing person that they are today. And they employed other people to remember when. So, yes, that's a very interesting point, Colette. And I think that that's valid. I want to know what the California laws are on how old you have to be employed. But mind you, they were not caught working, or else they would definitely have put that in the article that these kids were they were like actively working at the grow, not just present at the grow, which seems to be the consensus across all of Fox News and some of the CBS and other outlets. I want to know more.
You know what?
We're in a basement being chained up, given water and some breadcrumbs.
If my kids looked Hispanic and had been at the farm, right? And I'd been off leading a protest or something, right? And dropped them off at the farm because I got friends there.
Okay.
You couldn't prove that my kids were American kids, were born in the United States. How would you prove it? If they're unaccompanied, how do you know that they're not local?
They did say that they were illegal alien kids.
But how do you
And they were
prove that?
unaccompanied minors, but I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay, I'm sorry to bring us back to it, but this is hurting me.
I know.
It's hurting me in a lot of ways.
Because we
And
can't comprehend how everything plays out to get this as the highlight of today. And then the protesters allegedly, possibly pointing a gun at the ICE agents, which was so tongue in cheek yesterday. And so there's so much non-information
yeah,
and
don't like it.
almost
We spent too
embellishment.
much time on it, and there's
It
really valid
is.
things going on.
We're gonna
Uh,
find out more, and we'll make sure everybody on our elevated intel is well inteled after we get more info. But that did happen so close, so soon to the show that that's all the info we have.
So, and I do apologize for bringing us back to it, but we would like to thank folks for paying attention today. We've got some folks who have been watching us live. Thank you. We've got some folks who have shared. If you are watching this after, not watching live, and you see some content and someone you think would benefit from it, please share that. More likes and shares that we can get, the better our organization is going to do. And we're trying to send out some reminders so that you can remember to tune in. But it is 4:20 on Friday, so really, come on, you can
I mean,
remember.
we can't make
Cynthia
it any
remembered.
easier.
Yeah,
Like
no, it's good for
easy as it
stoners.
gets. And
Get
let's just
started.
go ahead and say happy belated 710 to everybody who celebrates, to you and yours. 710 national holiday in quotations, because today is like National French Friday and Slurpee Day, whatever. Not really a national holiday, but it was good. I was disappointed with the big deals. I didn't see a lot out there that really wowed me for the holiday. And also, if you can sell it that low, just sell it that low all the time, please.
Right, right. I just came back from Maine.
I know
I
you
might
did.
I might have mentioned that $125 ounces in the patient market.
So make America Maine
Maine again.
ish. We're gonna work on that. We're gonna wordsmith this with Chat GPT it. But yes, I can get it. I want to go visit this
Yeah,
wonderful place called Maine that you speak of.
I
It sounds
would.
lovely.
I would. I can recommend. I made new friends.
John.
And people care because we would rather make a program where people can cultivate for themselves, that small organizations can cultivate. Jar Company can exist, or Wilshire Madison can exist. That's right, can exist beside a True Leaf or a Cure Leaf because they both have opportunities. I don't
Yeah.
think it has to be one way or another, but I'm going to continue. I know we're very excited at Florida Cannabis Action at Work about the work that we're doing to make sure that we can start to help lawmakers to understand about that right to cultivate, that right to grow. So that's pretty important on our list of things.
It's
I think
gonna be
that's
like
one of the
trying to
things.
describe a jellyfish to a blind person. Yeah, think about that.
I will, and I think that's something to take into consideration. If it's something that you're interested in getting involved with Florida Can early, for the legislative session, definitely get in touch with us. Share our information online. That gets people's attention. But most importantly, get into our list so that you know what's coming up and we can get you involved early. So we've talked about Smart and Safe, 200 and something thousand from qualifying for the ballot. Have still no word on when they will go to Supreme Court review that I have seen.
Well, it forces them into review, like it forces them to be reviewed now that they hit 613 though, right?
It does. And thanks, Hector. Good to see you. Hector Roos from Miami has just joined. He's on our leadership team and is doing some strategic development with Florida Cannabis Action Network. He helped us with our strategic plan, which is, part of which is FOMO. We want you to really fear missing out on some of the fun stuff that we're going to be doing. I know that our friends at the Flowery are going to be at Dab Days in Orlando. I guess that's this weekend. And tomorrow I'm going to be at the FL Can office from 11 to 2. That's in Melbourne, Florida. And that is for our quarterly Buds and Brunch. So suggested donation of $10. If you're a member, you can come on. Are you going to be at Buds and Brunch tomorrow, Cynthia?
I will not. I will be at a barbecue in Tampa against my will.
Oh, well, okay.
I made a banana
Excellent.
pudding. Yes.
Is this where you made the barbecue syrup? Because you are a creative
Oh,
genius.
Chat GPT is my secret weapon. My secret weapon for the secret sauce. It helped me to create my homemade barbecue sauce labels. And they're very edgy and sexy and they're adorable. Love Chat GPT. So
I can
we
believe
want
they
to
are.
encourage members, non-members to smash that like button and subscribe. Share this with the loved ones that you have in your world that didn't make it for this 420 episode, and maybe you'll watch it later. But we do appreciate all of the collective sharing and caring that you do. And it helps us to be able to provide content to you on a regular basis because we don't have anything else going on Fridays at 420.
Hey, before we wrap up, I want to put out there that you are going to start hearing more from Florida Cannabis Action Network about the rescheduling. Florida is a pivotal state when it comes to cannabis. We're influential. We have nearly 1 million patients in our registry. Those are people who are legally qualified to get cannabis and have a constitutional right to it. So that makes us a little different than some states. So we're going to really start pushing the rescheduling conversation again. And we're going to be asking our friends to help. We need to really make a big deal and make a lot of noise. And when you make a lot of noise in Florida, it isn't like we're the Southern White House or anything. But, people are paying attention. Pam Bondi's home is here. So hashtag Pam Bondi and,
I
Senator
know she
Mookie
watches the
and
show.
that's
I know
well,
she's got to watch the
as
show.
she should, as she should. Well, maybe she won't let next time because this is round 4 and we'll be back next Friday at 4:20.
Yes, we will.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.